Today's live stream. Hey, 1 second. There's Zach. Zach's jumping on right now. All right, cool. We are now live. Zach, you managed to get your internet up and running. The heat wave. It's come down a little bit.
We'll see if it sticks. I don't know. The last
Yeah.
call was kind of patchy, but we'll see.
Awesome. What's the temperature over there right now?
Well, today's gonna be like 103, but right now it's like 90s or something. So it's still early,
I'm
but
gonna have to get used to that temperature.
I mean with a whole lot more humidity. So
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, I'm heading out to Jupiter, Florida, at the end of last month, and those summers are going to be a little bit more warmer than here in New Hampshire. But
you
hey,
said
we're
sorry, you said end of last month,
end of next month.
next
Uh,
month.
yeah, July 23rd. So we're not here to talk about the warm weather or the summers or my move to Jupiter, Florida. We're here to talk about how to make your small business recession-proof. Very popular topic. We've been having this conversation now dozens of times a week. People are feeling the pressures. They're feeling the changes that are going on in the economic environment. Some people are concerned. Some people are downright afraid. And yet there's a whole subset of other people that are really excited because they understand that with difficulty comes enormous amounts of opportunities. And as you've heard Zach and I mention a number of different times, if given a choice to grow a company in a recessionary period or to grow a company in a bull market, inevitably our answers are going to be the same, which is what, Zach?
Neither. No, I'm just kidding. A bear market.
Yeah, a bear market. And why is that?
I mean, well, because you have to be. It's going to cut out a lot of people, right? Like it's only the strong will survive, or those who adapt, and it's going to force you to be more creative and intelligent and strategic, and yeah, there's a number of reasons. Am I touching on the right one?
Yeah, no. I mean, at the end of the day, we've always grown more efficiently. We've always captured more market share. Any time that we've had these recessions, and I've been growing businesses now since 1999. Actually, damn, I just really aged myself.
Yeah, you did.
Uh, yeah, I know, I did. Since 1999, my dad is an entrepreneur, and I was as a young kid witnessing what he had to go through, and he would tell us his stories, as he experienced the different waves of 1987 and so forth. So I could tell you, right from the get-go that opportunities exist a lot in a recession. So not only are we really talking about recession-proofing a business, when you recession-proof a business, what you're actually doing is you're setting it up for an incredible amounts of growth. So I do want you to get excited about the different things moving forward. Anything you want to add, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, for the sake of the headline and for the sake of the times that we're in, we're talking about recession proof, your business. But I think many of or most of what we will talk about, why that's, beneficial to you is that it will create a culture and like a system of doing things the right way within your business. So just because we're talking about it right now does not mean it's not applicable when things are good, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not just right now. Like this isn't like how to cut corners or save money. It's not about that per se. It's more about how to be more strategic and hands on during what could be a difficult time.
To Zach's point, in bull markets, mistakes often go unnoticed. In bear markets, mistakes get punished. And so we're going to correct a number of the different mistakes and talk about that. And so let's kind of get down to the nitty gritty details. How's that sound, bud?
Sounds good.
Awesome. All right. So why don't we kick things off a little bit and let's talk about some of the core problems so that we can frame why there's a real difference between that of a bull market and a bear market. Um, you know, Zach, customers change, right? What are some of the biggest changes that you can point out offhand, or the greatest difference in customers, clients?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just a greater discernment or discerning eye when it comes to buying anything, right? If something gets in our head enough times where like we're in a recession, money is tight, et cetera. I mean, I've seen people just who would buy things quickly suddenly are like, well, maybe we shouldn't have this chair because, you know, the recession, or, you know, the times are tough. And so that's naturally going to have a knock-on effect for everyone who's selling something, because people are going to start weighing whether your product, service, offer is worth that decision, right? So maybe they're a little more careful with their money, not as free flowing. And so as you know, you have listed here in our notes, customers tighten their belts.
Yeah. You actually hear those exact words. You hear that from the decision makers in B2B companies. And you also hear that, you know, between spouses and whatnot, you know, honey, we gotta tighten our belts, you know, because what they're doing is they're preparing themselves for what they perceive to be more difficult times. And then on the B2B side of things, Zach, talk to me about how the decision making process has changed from in a bear market when you involve the B2B segment.
Yeah, I think there probably be more autonomy and like freedom, or you know, free reign to make those decisions at a lower level. And then as things start to get tighter in more difficult markets, what is not uncommon is to say, hey, you know, say you're selling me something, I'm like, Charlie, this sounds great. I need to go back to my board. I need to go to my CFO. I need to go. And now suddenly there's like 5 other people involved in this process, in a process that maybe didn't involve them 6, 9, 12 months ago. Right. So I think that's probably a big change that often goes unnoticed, because every time you add a new person, new layer, inevitably it becomes more complex, and you're speaking to another person, and you're appealing to a different need or desire or want. And so that is a big one that I think you see often when, you know, maybe things aren't going as well, or the market has shifted. Now suddenly there's more players involved and your job is more difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just to your point, you know, let's say you think you have the decision maker on the phone. Maybe it's a marketing manager. Maybe it's even the CMO of a particular company. You think you have the decision maker. They typically are the decision maker, but they need to go get the rubber stamp. And that rubber stamp is actually going to come from the CFO, who passed instructions to everybody that says, hey, you need to tighten your belt and cut expenses and whatnot. So, you know, when you're submitting these proposals and whatnot, you got to make sure that there are certain elements in that proposal that will help you get that rubber stamp from the CFO. One of those types of elements is what, Zach?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
So when you're sending a proposal, and you know that proposal needs to get to that rubber stamp from the CFO, they're looking for what? The CFO is looking for what in particular?
Well, the cost, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're...
They're looking for the cost, and there's also, you went from benefit discussion over to then an ROI comparison, right?
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, it kind of cut out a little bit. Might have been my internet. No, I was following you on the point, in that I think what I'm thinking of, at least from my perspective, is that this could have a bigger impact on your overall strategy, right? Let's say my ideal customer profile is, you know, middle manager, whatever, right? You have this clear cut of idea, and you know, like your go-to-market strategy and how you're going to attack these people and how you're going to contact them. That suddenly can change on its head, because now you have to involve like 2 or 3 other people. And so what do they care about? How are you going to contact them? How do you get them involved? And yeah, it can, you know, dramatically change, you know, your whole strategy around customer acquisition.
For sure. So in a B2B situation where, you know, you have to, you might get the marketing manager being like, oh, this is exactly what we need. I love this. It'll make my job so much easier. I'm all in. So yes, I'm all in. So you get the confirmation. You guys get off of Zoom. You're high-fiving your team. You're ringing the gong. You're like, woo, we got the sale. But what you don't realize is that behind the scenes, the marketing manager says, this is awesome. Now I'm going to just go to the CFO and get the rubber stamp. It should be no problem. The CFO says, okay, I got it. Tell me again why you really need this. And the marketing manager makes this great story why they need to make it. Okay, help me understand the ROI justification. So help me understand why this is worth the price. Did you go to other vendors? Did you see if there was anybody that you could get this cheaper and so forth? And so that's the type of back and forth that happens at the B2B level. At the B2C level, they have similar conversations between significant others, but the decision making can be a little bit more streamlined. But we're not here just to talk about the problems. We're also here to talk about the solutions, right? So let's really, just for the sake of time, let's kind of hone in on some of the three biggest solutions that we can offer people on how to make sure that their business is recession proof. Feel like kicking us off, Zach?
Sure. So I think number one is, you must put the focus on the value of doing business with you, not on the price of what it costs.
Yeah.
But making you the best choice. What makes this a smart choice right now? What is your unique advantage? Why should they buy from you, even if they can get it cheaper elsewhere? So on and so forth, right? So you're kind of, as we alluded to in the problems, you're maybe rethinking the strategy of a customer acquisition and how you're going to go about acquiring them and why they should do business with you at this moment, given that the waters have changed.
For sure. I mean, the reason why you're putting the focus on the value of doing business with you rather than the price is a number of different things. As Zach said, one of the questions that people are asking is, why is buying this just even a smart choice? Because your competitors, rather, your competitive landscape is much wider. In bull markets, you're competing with people just like you, companies just like you. That's your competition. In bear markets, you're competing with anybody who wants access to that $1. So now what you're doing is you have to say, hey, you want to get, this thing right here. This is the best use of your money right now, and here's why. And then once they're convinced that this is the best use of their money and here's why, now you got to tell them why you're the best vendor to supply this to them. And then once you convince them that you're the best vendor to supply this to them, now you also got to convince them as to why they should be willing to invest in this product, even if they can find it cheaper somewhere else. So, that kind of ties into the second of the solutions. The first solution is making sure you're putting the value on doing business with you. And one of the questions we like to ask is what needs to happen to be the most expensive competitor in the industry and still have people lining up to do business with you. But then the second thing is you have to be able to spend time educating people on why this is a smart choice, right? So Zach talked about putting the focus on the value, but you also have to make sure that you're educating them. You're educating them on why it's a smart choice by not just rehashing the same sort of information that anybody can put out there. It's by creating various different aha moments, those moments that get people to sit back on their heels and go, wow, that changes everything, right? Because our buyers have become researchers. And so they're more discerning, as Zach mentioned earlier, more discerning with the amount of money that they're spending or where they're spending it and so forth. So, the best marketers in a bear market will ultimately put out more content across social, across blogs, across YouTube, email, and so forth. And not only is all this content helping to educate people, not only with all this content, generate more leads and whatnot, all this content is part of the laws of effective frequency. It helps to create demand, and that's what you're doing. So you're putting the focus on the value of doing business with you. Then you're spending more time educating people, creating that demand. And then the third thing, Zach, you feel like telling people?
Sure. It's a concept that we've talked about before. I'm not sure if we talked about it on these live streams, but I know we've talked about it for years, is building multiple spokes into your wheel of, revenue, right? Your revenue wheel. So building multiple profit centers. So then should one, let's say you have a wheel and you have like the different spokes, should one go out, it's not going to be this terribly bumpy ride, right? So you have other things to kind of diversify and rely on. I think that's, one thing is you want to build that robustness into your business right now. If you haven't already, I mean, you should be doing that anyway, but if you haven't, that's something that I would look at right now. If you're relying on, let's say we've had clients like this before in the past when they've come to us and like the house is on fire. Well, we were on page one of Google rankings, SEO, whatever. Now suddenly something has changed and we're not, and our business has tanked because of it. That's concerning, right? You're so dependent upon one factor, one variable, and should it change, you're in the dumps. That's bad, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
I don't need to tell you that. I don't think, and everyone kind of knows that, but you're just kind of walking on thin ice and waiting for that to crack.
I just spoke to a CEO this morning. Very, very successful CEO, brilliant individual. And for the last 14 years, his business had awesome SEO rankings. And they continued to improve year after year after year. And he was making an extraordinary amount of money. And after 14 years, he sort of figured, well, why do we have to change anything? Every year is better than the past, and life is just grand. So this is awesome. So we never really put that focus on building out those profit centers. Well, Google recently changed their algorithm, and as a result, their website got punished. They don't have the SEO traffic that they once had. And now he's treading water, trying to figure out exactly what he needs to do to bring his business up. But the same thing happens. We're huge fans of cold email. We're also huge fans of various different inbound marketing strategies and so forth. There's actually thousands of different strategies that you can deploy to grow your business and build the robustness in your organization. One of the metaphors that we also use, in addition to what Zach talked about having that spoke in the wheel, that robustness. So when you look at the engine of a vehicle, seldom do you see all the pistons going up at the same time and going down at the same time. And the same exact thing happens when you look at your marketing strategies. You may have outbound performing really, really well, but then your Facebook marketing isn't producing as well. And then all of a sudden, maybe Facebook is producing well, outbound isn't doing as well. Then maybe YouTube does really great, but your AdWords all of a sudden doesn't do well. And so there's this constant flux. Some things are going to come in flavor, some things are going to go out of flavor. The more robustness you build in your organization at a clip of typically what we recommend to our clients, one new profit center per quarter, the more predictability you're going to have in your revenue, and ultimately that you translate down into your profits as well. Anything else that you want to add, my man?
Yeah, actually, there's a couple things I was thinking about this. I think there's a few notes that, and I've been seeing this. So as you know, I don't know if I mentioned this on these live streams. I joined a group called Pavilion. There's a bunch of CROs, and there's like the same topics that kind of come up and the same like things. And I've noticed the very successful companies, not only in the work that we do, but in working. Obviously, we've worked with a bunch of companies in the CROs. What I'm seeing is, and I think we do this as well, is, so I just have a couple of things on the list. Number one is simplifying. So like in the sales process, we went through someone on the team who was bold enough to share their sales stages, and they had like 12 different stages. And immediately everyone was like, you need to pare that down, right? Like, and it should be like 3 or 4 stages until you get to a stage where you're beyond that. Or as times are different right now, just simplify it, get down to like 3 stages. Don't have like 15 different things in there. Number 2 was, if it's not in the pipeline or if the note's not in there, it doesn't exist. They just gotta make sure you have all that, evaluate performance on data, not your gut. And then the one that we've talked about before is building for like scalability and lessening the importance of individual talents on your org's overall success, right? Like your company's overall success should not be so dependent. We just talked about like the spokes in the wheel. Same thing for individual people. If you're really dependent on an individual person, when things start to go kind of sideways potentially, or a different market change, you could see that person leave, or you could see something happen, and then you're really similar to what we just talked about Google. It can apply to your people as well. So you want to be sure that you have those systems and processes in place so that there isn't a drop off should something happen.
For sure. Awesome. So I know we're pushing up against the clock here. Look, strategies that worked in good times don't always work also in bad times. So you got to be willing to adapt. You got to be willing to evolve. But as we said when we opened up today's conversation, there are opportunities in every market. we don't believe that there's a good market or a bad market. It's just a different market. It's a time that you can really be excited because it'll be one of the more efficient ways for you to capture more market share. So as I said, given a choice, grow business in a recession or grow business in a bull market, I'll choose recession anytime. Just as Jack Welch, Richard Branson, Warren Buffett, how they have all talked about never waste an opportunity like a good recession. So now's not the time to panic. Now's the time to prepare. You have an abundant amount of opportunities available to you. When you really look back at the years ahead, I promise you, if you take the time to be strategic, you'll say that those times were some of the best times that you could have ever had in your business. So again, now's not the time to panic. It's a time to prepare. Zach and I will be here, same place next week. If you like this conversation, you have questions, you want us to address a different topic in the future, live, drop us a comment. If you like us, drop us a like, or you like this content, drop us a like, give us some feedback, and we'll keep on going. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. We will talk to you soon.